All right, let's talk about it. Let's get into our complicated and, let's be honest, often frustrating relationship with our devices. And to kick things off, I want to share this really powerful confession from a professional who just found herself completely overwhelmed. Wow. That feeling of lost time, of doing something almost against your will, it's not unique. It's an experience so many of us share. You know the one, where you look up from your screen and just wonder, where did the last hour go? I mean, come on, does it ever? Have you ever felt that little twitch, that impulsive itch to just check your phone while you're waiting for the elevator for 10 seconds? Or maybe you've gotten lost in a scroll before you're even really awake. If you have, you are so not alone. And just how much time are we talking about here? Well, get this. The average adult in the US now spends over 4.5 hours a day on their phone. Just let that sink in for a second. That's nearly a quarter of our waking lives spent staring at a screen. So the big question is, why? Why are these little glowing rectangles so unbelievably hard to put down? I promise you, it's not a lack of willpower. The answer is actually hardwired into our brains, all thanks to a very powerful little chemical. Right, so you've probably heard of dopamine as the pleasure chemical, but here's the thing, that's not quite right. It's really more of a motivation chemical. It's the engine that drives us to seek out rewards. It creates that feeling of anticipation that keeps us hunting for that next little digital hit. And this is where it gets kind of crazy. Tech platforms have engineered their apps to hijack the system perfectly. They use something called a variable reward schedule, which is the exact same psychological trick that makes a slot machine in Vegas so addictive. You never know when you'll get a reward, a like, a comment, an amazing video. So you just keep pulling the lever, or, scrolling and scrolling. And here is the crucial point to understand. This is not an accident. It's by design. These apps are free because our attention is the product being sold to advertisers. And these incredibly sophisticated AI-driven algorithms have one single goal: to capture and hold your focus for as long as humanly possible. Okay, so what is the real cost of all this? This constant battle for our attention? Well, it comes at a very, very steep price. And it's affecting our productivity, our relationships, and our overall well-being in ways we're only just beginning to understand. This quote just nails the central paradox of our modern world, doesn't it? We have access to literally all the information we could ever want, but in the process, our ability to actually focus on any one thing has been absolutely shattered. Research shows that what we call multitasking is pretty much a myth. What we're really doing is task switching. And every single time a notification pulls you away from your work, your brain loses momentum. And it's not a small thing. Studies show it can take up to 25 minutes to fully get back in the zone. In the process, we can lose up to 20% of our cognitive capacity. That's a fifth of your brain power, just gone. It's even degrading our relationships. I mean, think about it. Hearing a loved one's voice on the phone can actually trigger the release of oxytocin. That's the love hormone that's responsible for bonding and trust. But get this, studies have shown that a text message, no matter how many heart emojis it has, just doesn't produce that same biological response. And the costs just keep piling up. The blue light from our screens messes with our sleep. The curated, perfect lives we see on social media fuels anxiety and that fear of missing out. And by filling every single moment of boredom, we're actually robbing our brains of the quiet time they need to be creative and solve problems. So if the problem is this obvious, why do all the simple fixes, turning off notifications, setting app timers, why do they so often fail in the long run? Well, it comes down to what you might call the pickled cucumber problem. After years and years of constant digital stimulation, our brain's neural pathways have literally changed. We've been, pickled. And you can't unpickle a cucumber. That's why these superficial hacks just aren't enough. We need something deeper. We need a whole new philosophy. So instead of fighting this losing battle with willpower alone, what if we chose to adopt a whole new philosophy for how we engage with technology? One that puts our values, not some algorithm, back in the driver's seat. This philosophy, which was defined by the author Cal Newport, it's not about hating technology or going back to the Stone Age. Not at all. It's about being incredibly intentional. It's about asking yourself, does this tool actually serve what I value most in my life? And then, and this is the key part, being totally okay with happily missing out on the rest. So how do you actually do this? Well, here's a pretty clear 5-step plan. And notice, it doesn't start with deleting everything in a panic. It starts with a simple, non-judgmental audit of your habits. The goal isn't to feel guilty. It's just about awareness. Just notice when, where, and why do you reach for that device? Now, this rediscover step is absolutely crucial. When you start to reduce your screen time, you create a void, a space. And it is so important to fill that space with rewarding, real-world activities that genuinely fill you up. Things that engage your mind and your body in a way that feels truly fulfilling. Ultimately, this entire journey, reclaiming our attention, our time, our focus, it all boils down to this one single question. It's not about good tech versus bad tech. It's about agency. It's about making a conscious choice to live a more intentional life in a world that is literally designed to distract you.